Welcome to the Football Yanks podcast, covering the English Premier League with a special focus on our fellow Americans. And now your hosts, Derek and Ryan.
Hello and welcome to the Football Yanks podcast. It's Sunday, September 10th, and we are in the midst of the international break. So there's plenty to talk about, but there's no EPL. We can't talk about the Yanks, which is great. So we'll cover that for sure. We've got a lot we're going to kind of be in the mud in this episode. There's been a lot of drama, a lot of like unsavory things to cover, but it's what we got to do here. So, anyway, how have your guys' weekends been? What's going on?
Well, I saw Beethoven last night. I'm going to Nothing Nowhere tonight. I'm exhausted.
Beethoven is dead, Derek.
Yeah, well, anyways, I listened to Beethoven last night. And, went to Sugarvale last night, which Luke will be happy to hear.
Were you alone?
Wait,
after watching Beethoven?
No, I don't go. I didn't go to listen to Beethoven by myself or to drink at Sugarvale by myself. I did take a quick look around to make sure you weren't in there, like hiding in a corner somewhere.
Is Sugarvale just a bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really nice little cocktail bar in Mount Vernon. So anybody listening, go check it out. Yeah, really nice little basement bar. Once Derek and I had the pleasure of running into each other unadulterated out in the wild.
Somebody was screaming at me from a scooter from across the street in the middle of Mount Vernon. I realized that was Luke.
And then we had a nice tableside cocktail, just me and Derek.
That sounds lovely. And instead, Derek was drinking alone last night and listening to Beethoven.
That's what I heard.
That's what I'm to understand. Based on a decade of friendship, that's the most likely scenario. So.
I'm not going to contest this. I'm just going to let it lay.
Well, I'm sorry, Derek. When we saw each other, you were about on your way to Prime Rib. Is that right? To see
with Ryan.
See Ryan's family. Yeah, it's nice and serendipitous. Yeah.
Getting dinner with my mom. She like was dying to have Prime Rib, and so I went with the most on the nose possible place to acquire that. We went to the Ravens game today, me and Shannon has a t-shirt that says "Bitch, I'm a Raven" on it. They sell them outside of the stadium, and I was like not sure about that decision.
Yeah.
And she was stopped and told that she needed to turn it inside out to remain in the stadium. And I was like, you guys realize they're trying to kill each other out there, right? Like violence is the name of the game.
Yeah,
here,
this is what we're worried about. Yeah, it's all about optics, right? It's the complete opposite of the Premier League.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to act like they're on like good moral standing in a lot of ways right now. But yeah. Luke, what'd you get into? Anything? Oh, by the way, Luke is here. Luke is gonna be a more regular member of the podcast going forward. So the feedback was pretty good. It was something approximating like, when Luke's talking, Derek isn't, so please have him back on.
Yeah, we've heard this. We've heard this feedback pretty regularly since Luke's last appearance.
Yeah, so
I'll take that with a little grain of salt. But I'm proud to hear it.
Yeah, so I'm out.
My weekend hasn't been too crazy. Played some 11s today, which was pretty fun. We lost unfortunately, but I played pretty well. I thought it was a good match.
Where do you line up in 11s?
On the team that I play on Sundays, I play right back or like a number 6. A little less like kind of creative, a little less,
That's what you played like
in college, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then today after that, we went to a movie called Theater Camp, which I highly recommend. And it really soothed a lot of like the wounds that are still open on my body after Lyra and the Ferocious Beast, which we talked about last time I was here. So Theater Camp, go check it out. It is about weird kids going to theater camp. And it has that fuck boy bro who's a YouTuber who's been in a whole bunch of movies now. Yeah, it was fantastic. When you see the actor, I don't know his name, I'll look it up, but yeah, it was really funny, really cathartic. I'm very, very happy I went.
Is it the guy who boxes? What's that dude's name?
Like Logan Paul or
Logan Paul.
No, not Logan Paul. His name is Jimmy Trado, yeah.
I have no idea who that is.
You're I guess Luke's a Zoomer on this podcast.
Yeah. Luke's bringing the youth to the...
That's why you brought me back.
Yeah. Suddenly get way out of my depth here.
I bring down the age of the podcast a couple of years.
Considerably, yeah.
We're being a progressive podcast over here.
Yeah. And notably, Luke is a Tottenham fan, so that'll help balance things out. I've like actually feared a little bit that we've been Chelsea heavy, although I wouldn't say we've certainly been more effusive toward Tottenham than Chelsea this season. But
yeah, I did have a listen to the last podcast, and it did feel good to hear you quaking in your boots.
Yeah.
To talk about the past couple of results we've had.
When you were on here, I did say I thought Postecoglou was a gangster. I remember saying that, and that I was puzzled by the like, I wouldn't say collective dismay, but the initial response to his announcement was not. It didn't seem positive from Spurs fans, and I didn't expect him to do this well. I still think that team is just full of trash, but you
can't make everybody look and feel like Richarlison.
It's not fair. Yeah, I thought that's where Rye was going with that specifically. Not naming names.
Madison,
talk about
what a pickup.
The international break. Oh yeah, Madison's been incredible, but Richarlison came off the game against Bolivia or Ecuador, whoever they were playing, crying when they were winning 3-1.
Crying.
You see
that sounds right.
No, I did not see this.
Coming off the pitch, yeah, it's just
it fits. Fits the mold.
Get it together, man.
He didn't think he should be subbed. Is that?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think he's just low confidence. You got to have some empathy for the guy, but it's like his pigeon dance doesn't really help him with that.
That's what I mean. Like, the pigeon dance, it's the stuff he does with the ball at his feet. Like, just like it's Anthony type stuff.
Oh, we'll cover him.
Yeah, I'm interested to talk about Anthony. Yeah,
we're going to get into that. There's like more developments on this today too, but yeah, I guess let's dig in. So Rubiales, the man whose name I somehow couldn't pronounce when we were covering this earlier, he resigned moments before this podcast. Not moments,
and we say bye-bye.
maybe a couple hours. It's so much better when I'm not expecting Derek is captaining. I'm not going to be here next week, so it'll be the Derek and Luke show. Yeah,
there'll be a lot more soundboard. Don't worry.
Yeah, I said to be measured, Derek. Yeah. Anyway, Rubiales, fuck this guy. What a. I don't even it's inexplicable how what transpired here and the Federation's response to this. Have you been following this at all, Luke? We've covered it a little bit on here.
I have not like reading the Spanish the newspapers about it, but been following it pretty well in the US coverage. Really embarrassing stuff here. Really embarrassing. The guy couldn't help himself with how he looks. The damn Q-tip, kissing on beautiful people. It's like a ball. The only thing worse is if there was just a little bit of hair coming out of the top of his head. Just oh my God, just painfully evil looking dude who just won't go away. And his mother in the church. It blows my mind.
The hunger strike. Yeah,
incredible. Really happy to see that he has finally stepped down.
That was good news today.
But it's still it doesn't sit well for me that he got to resign. He should have been fucking fired. Instead this dragged on for how long has it been? A month, 3 weeks? It's been a long time since they won the World Cup. And yeah, he really robbed them of what should have been a joyous moment for that team and for their federation with this. And
the team's great and the federation's garbage. I think that's the takeaway. And they probably all of them still need to go. You're right. So there's not really any justice until they're all gone, which doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, this project has to be to take out of the aperture or the structure that kept him there for a month.
Right.
Yeah.
How was there, and how did he get him up in front of all these people and say, what did he say? Like, this is feminism in overdrive or something, and got clapped off the stage. Like, how can somebody do that?
Well, yeah, he started like a chant. He like said it was feminism unchecked.
Yeah, maybe. I think that was what it was. Yeah.
And then he started a chant that was like, I will not go. And I don't know, like, yeah, he got clapped off the stage, which was a bad look, but I interpreted it as like a confused clap. Like this like maniac was chanting, I will not go. And people were just compelled by his maybe I'm being very generous here. I don't know, but
no, people in Europe get confused about that kind of stuff a lot. Like, what kind of leaders they should be following.
Right. They haven't yet had their 4 years of Trump, I guess. So it's like general confusion. I don't know. I'm glad he's gone. He should have been fired. The Federation, there's a lot of rot there that is going to have to go. Whoever comes in there next has got to really take a cleaver to that place. Because
and think about it. It just occurred to me that the coach got fired before he did, right?
Yep.
Like.
Yeah, I think you're right.
God.
Yeah,
I think they saw that as like an attempt to take down the structure. I think the really interesting thing is like this has been going on for a long time. I think that Rubiales is just like kind of the cherry on top. That team was on strike essentially.
Yeah,
because of the coach, right?
Yeah, I don't think they had the full menu of options for players. Like I think there were still players who didn't play in the World Cup because of the issues that federation had going into it. So they could have been even better, I think. Yeah, I don't know. We can move on from this.
I also hope this is not over yet. I hope that there is some real inquest into the Spanish Football Federation, because this is really like an eyesore for them after what is maybe not the most successful past 4 years, but an incredibly successful 15 years, 20 years in the Federation, you know?
Yep.
So hopefully they can,
and they seem to just hard back him. Like,
that's the hard part.
They were like, if you are sanctioning our president, then we will just leave UEFA or whatever they said. Yeah, I don't know. Very strange stuff. This is a little bit of a detour that isn't like, I don't know. Hansi Flick, he's been sacked. Germany got worked over by Japan 4-1 last night. I think it was last night. That team has some issues. Do
you think starting Kai Havertz at 9 is one of them?
Yeah. What? Do
you think maybe that might be a basis for firing? Because I feel like if I was being evaluated on my performance and I did that, I'd expect to get fired.
I don't know what he was seeing that I'm not seeing. I know that I don't know what other options they have there. I mean, presumably Timo Werner would have been available.
But
Jamal
that's part of the
Musiala
problem, right? Is like in these cases, like we look at the like I don't know. Sometimes we just look at the coach and we talk about the coach because of how bad the result is. But like in Germany, I'm sure they're looking at these players like Kai Havertz and saying like, well, what are these guys doing?
Yeah,
like, in contrast the teams they've had before.
Yeah, I don't know how. I just like it escapes explanation to like I don't have the mental jujitsu in me to find a path to watching Kai Havertz at Chelsea for 2 years trying to play as a 9, to being shipped over to Arsenal, and he can't even fucking connect with a ball. And then your job is on the line, and that's the dude you're going to put up there. I don't know. Like, it hasn't not Jamal Musiala, Yusufa Moukoko. Hasn't he been like balling out over there? Like, I would have sooner taken a flyer on him as young as he is than I would have played Kai Havertz.
Well, I think that's probably the reality, right? Is that I think whoever's the public and that federation have probably evaluated what he was doing to look at developmental players and develop a program, and basically throwing the same, Kai Havertz and Emre Can and I forget whoever else or whoever didn't look good in those lately, but you'd have to take a shot at somebody at that point, because you're watching him not perform. It's not like it's a surprise that Kai Havertz goes out there and doesn't perform. To your point, it's been Groundhog Day for 3 years.
They didn't make it out of the group in the World Cup, right?
Yeah, that team's been stagnant for a while.
Yep.
How did he survive that?
Well, I think there must be. I'm willing to give in that there's something about Kai Havertz that all these managers keep putting faith in. There's something happening in training that doesn't translate on the pitch. That's, I think, one possibility. The second is that it seems like Germany and, a certain club that we will mention, Chelsea last year, have very similar issues in terms of having a good amount of skill, no number, like consistent number 9, and no real way to score goals. Sané's in good form and it can wreak havoc, but he's not really a goal scorer consistently. And in that German national team, Werner's definitely not it. And you think of years past, I think this is a problem, but Müller is now, I think, too old to play number 9 consistently. Have had a fantastic career, but who else is there?
Yeah, there's a big gap.
It's a very similar issue to Chelsea.
Did they ever deploy Müller as a 9?
He must have played some games. I don't follow the German team super closely.
He's usually been a right wing, right?
Sure. I think he played it as a center forward at times in the national team or for Bayern. But
yeah,
I think the two teams, Chelsea and Germany, are very similar in this way of having all of this talent, but no real clinical edge at this moment.
Yeah. Gundogan gave an interview after and basically he just flat out said that the team lacks confidence right now. So Hansi Flick is a winner. Like he's won the CL, right? I think with Bayern.
I don't know his history well. I think the manager before Hansi Flick won the CL, but Hansi Flick, I think, was very confident with Bayern Munich. I think that team did really well. Like, no questions about the Bundesliga, did well in Champions League. But I'm not sure if he won the Champions League.
It says he's won the CL. I don't know who he won it with.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Bayern, though. Obviously a tactician, but some of these high-level tacticians, like, could you imagine Guardiola really doing well with a national team? In my opinion, no. And I think Hansi Flick is probably in this category where high-level technical coach, but being a international like tournament coach, essentially, where you have these players for a short amount of time, you can't instill the same kind of tactical nuance that you can with a club over, a year to 4 years or however long, I think, like, imagine Guardiola, he would be like banging his head against the wall for months while he had no access to these players. And I think that seems like a little bit of what's happened to Hansi Flick. One of the reasons, and I know we'll talk about him later, is Gareth Southgate has been successful, or at least successful to the level he has been, is because he doesn't really do anything complicated. He just says, I'm going to assemble the team, make the team a team, and let them do it. Because I don't have the time. He's accepted that. And I don't see Hansi Flick as a coach who would really accept that. He'd complicate it.
Yeah.
Leads to Havertz playing up top, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it is different. It's definitely a different beast being an international manager versus a club manager. That much is obvious to me. But yeah, let's talk about Southgate to like move it on a little bit. So the pulse, and Derek, did you watch this game? I watched it with Luke, actually, or at least half of it. So the pulse that I've seen in England is that they are furious with this result and the formation and the lineup that he chose. And
what's the joke exactly?
It's hard to
why, Gareth? Why?
It's hard to argue. I don't know. It looked pretty uninspired, aside from the one moment of brilliance from Harry Kane to what's his name?
Kyle Walker.
By
the way, Ryan, you were right. Hansi Flick won the Champions League with Bayern Munich in 2020. Well done. After that kind of moment of brilliance from both players, that game just never caught to life, never found rhythm. I felt like really uninspiring performance. I think playing Jude Bellingham on the left or in a floating position from the left side of the attacking part of the field into the middle just didn't work, and having him and James Maddison kind of switch just didn't seem to work. Jordan Henderson, I'm sorry, I kept saying this to you, Ryan, but he was useless in my opinion during that game. No progression. Maybe he kept shape, but that's about the bare minimum. I want to see Maddison and Bellingham play in the same midfield with Declan Rice at the base. If you're going to go win against a Ukraine team that's below your standard, that's what they've got to do. They've got to go win games now because they have the talent, and Southgate chooses not to, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's why they were frustrated with him going into the game, and then he just went and confirmed it by trotting Henderson out there, to your point.
That his selection now, like Maguire's in the game, right? And he played well. I thought, or at least he didn't play poorly. I don't think I observed him making any sort of egregious errors in the course of that game, but it still speaks to Southgate's lack of player management and calls into question his selection when Maguire can't get a game at club level. How is he the most fit option?
How Levi Colwell doesn't start that match is beyond me.
Or Fikayo Tomori, who I know
absolutely,
who I know hasn't been as good of late for in Italy, but he is getting more. He's getting more playing time than Maguire. And
is he left-footed?
Tomori, no, he's right-footed. Maguire was playing. Is Maguire left-footed?
So yeah, Maguire's left-footed, and one of the big reasons that he has had so much, why Man United paid so much for him, because he's a left-sided center back that can play on the right side.
Okay,
and he can also obviously play on the left side, but he has the ability to do both. So the upside seemed really high. That there's such a premium on left-footed center backs right now.
Yeah.
You know, Tottenham paid 60 million or 50 million for Mickey Van de Ven, who's not an established player, just because he had a left foot. That's why I think Colwell must go into that team. How is anyone on Ukraine going to hurt Levi Colwell more than they're going to hurt Harry Maguire? It's beyond me.
Yeah. I agree. Colwell should be a starter on this team, I think, but yeah, I don't know. They're calling for his head in England, and I don't know. I have read that Pep is mulling over the idea of replacing Southgate. It's some rumors behind the scenes is that Pep wants his next job to be as an international coach, and that might be good, right? But
logically, it makes sense in terms of a next step for his career and what he would want to do. I don't know. I said it, or I think I said in the preseason, I don't know that that's the right country for him, but
yeah. So I'm questioning. So the reason I'm I'm like stalling on my delivery of this, I guess, is that Luke just pointed out that Pep would go crazy if he can't work with his players day in and day out and like hone them into like exactly what he's looking for in his system. And so maybe it's not a good idea. I don't know. It seems to me that they would be very distinct skills, that like whether you're managing club or country.
Which there is some crossover with. I think Guardiola is going to be successful in any managing position that he goes into because he's smart enough to change.
Yeah.
I don't know if the English national team would be the one that he would go to. My thinking, he'd probably want to go to the Spanish national team.
Yeah.
But he is a Blaugrana, so he might not want, I don't know, like Catalan is a whole kind of like political situation. So I don't know if he would want to do that. I think that they wanted Eddie Howe to step up and do that job after Southgate, but I see Howe as being with Newcastle at least for another year or maybe 2.
Yeah.
Depending on its results.
Yeah, I don't know that being a national team coach is as great a job as we thought it was,
or how Americans think it is. It is, I think, an American perception of being the national coach is like the top. I don't know if that's true here.
All right. Well, let's we can move on from that. But yeah, so I don't know. Southgate might be next. That was kind of a disappointing result. Although I don't think Ukraine are like, there's some talent on that team. Mudryk went down with an injury, so like add that to the list of Chelsea injuries. I guess Romeo Lavia also got injured over the weekend. So great. Let's see here. Man United. Let's talk about what's going on with this club. And
where do we start?
Yeah, hang on, guys, because we're really going to be shoveling shit for a minute here. So I figured I'd start light and talk about the Sancho drama. So like after the last game, Sancho can't get a game with Man United after they spent some, like, off the top of my head, like what did they spend, like 90 on him, 90 million euros, something like that. They fought for Sancho for, again, my recollection, 2 straight seasons trying to get this guy, pry him from Borussia Dortmund, and he can't get a game. And what's his name? Why can't Ten Hag was asked about this after their loss to Arsenal. And he responded by saying that he does not like what he sees from Sancho on the training ground. Sancho is not giving his all on the training ground, and that there's something approximating like Man United is a club that demands everything from you, and Sancho is not giving Man United everything.
I didn't do fucking shit. I didn't rig shit.
Yeah, so Sancho fires back it was a tweet, I think, that is still pinned. I checked on Twitter before we kicked off this podcast. He fucking pinned this thing on his Twitter where he's basically like, I don't agree with this assessment. I'm being made the scapegoat. There's a lot of issues at Man United that I'm being made the scapegoat for. I have been giving my all. I've been happy, like, with not playing and doing whatever the club needs, like something like that. And that's kind of where things were, or are, I guess. The rumors are that he attempted a Saudi move just to get away from that club, and it fell apart at the transfer deadline day for Saudi. So he will remain at least until January at Man United. And like, really, this is like somewhat related to the Antony accusations, because it gives Ten Hag additional heartburn, because presumably his 2 right-wing options are Sancho and Antony. And Antony is now embroiled in an assault charge, 2 of them maybe, that he's being investigated for in Manchester and in Brazil. He was dropped by the Brazilian national team for this international break, and it came out today, first out of Antony's camp, where he said he is voluntarily taking a leave of absence from Man United while this investigation goes on. But then the club said that they had like negotiated terms with Antony for him to take a leave of absence. Like the announcement, as I recall it, I saw the announcement from Antony's camp first, and then there was an official publishing of this on Man United's website. So that's like 200 million euros worth of winger for this team. Sancho, I think I looked this up last week, and I believe he's their highest paid player on the team. He might be, he's top 3 for sure. I don't remember if he was number 1. What a mess. Do you guys have any, that was a lot of information. Do you guys have any thoughts on
what the fuck is this piece of shit?
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, so and I think you highlighted, right, like there's like several layers to the shit pile, right? Like, and at the top of it is just huge, moral and ethical issues around what's going on with players on that team and how the team's handling it, how the fans are reacting, what the players are doing, and basically, I don't know if, I think you call it out in the notes, right? Like Greenwood, basically, the reason he wasn't brought back into the team isn't because the team said, hey, this guy is a problem to humanity. It's because the optics were bad. And they're like, oh, we'll just ship him off to Spain because, that's that kind of shit over there. Just, takes 6 weeks to get a resignation.
Yeah, I hadn't even covered Greenwood yet. I was going to get to that. So that was, I figured just because they play in the same position, I was covering Sancho and Antony first, but yeah, then you have the Greenwood shit on top of this, right? So Greenwood, right? Let me button up Antony first, right? So, it's actually very difficult to get information on the Antony case. I think that because the process is ongoing, that people are being they're holding this pretty close to their chest. But there was something I read during the week. There was an accusation that Man United team doctor actually went and treated the woman who was allegedly abused by Antony, and I believe what I read. I don't have this right in front of me, but I believe that Man United confirmed that they did an out call on behalf of Antony, but they said that it was routine or something like that. There was no like them covering up that this had happened. But she is asserting that Man United has been complicit in covering up the fact that this had happened. So there's that part of this shit sandwich. And then in the backdrop of all of this, you have them attempting to reintegrate Mason Greenwood into the fold. And just to recap what has happened with him, he was accused by his girlfriend of I think that the R word is like a banned word on these platforms, but just use your imagination, and of assaulting her. And then so there were charges, and then she had receipts. She had photo and audio evidence of this happening, and that got out to the public. And so this was like sort of just accepted that he did this. And then they got back together, and they're having or had a child together, and she dropped the case as a result of this. And then it's probably worth mentioning that the club previously had acknowledged, or it's like public knowledge, that when he was in their academy, that he was seen as sort of a troubled character, and that held him back from breaking into the first team sooner. Were like sort of character flaws that they had seen in his development.
Have either of you listened to that clip out of curiosity?
I have not.
The
have you?
Recording of Mason Greenwood. That was like, I did hear a part of it. In my memory of it, it didn't corner him for a crime, but it showed the side of him that could
exactly, yeah, right. So it wasn't incriminating, right? But I would say it was sickening, and I don't know how, as a Manchester United fan, you can't listen to it and be sickened, which I think is probably where they came out with the backlash they did, right? But even with everything going on at the Antony, the sense I get is everybody's all bent out of shape about the fact that they have no wingers and Mason Mount is garbage, rather than worrying about the real issue at the top of the shit pile, which is that your team still has these two pieces of garbage on the payroll. And I don't know if it's tough without convictions probably for them to claim just cause and terminate the contracts, but it also doesn't seem like anyone's really trying to like go that route and do the right thing.
So
very little accountability.
Yeah. So a few more details on Greenwood. Evidently, I think this is from Fabrizio Romano, the man who knows everything in the soccer world. Man United is still paying half of Greenwood's salary while he's at Getafe, and they have they're renting and he's living in a luxury apartment in Spain, provided by the club. And there are rumors have gotten out that they plan on attempting to reintegrate him next season. They're hoping the temperature around him comes down while he's in Spain, and they can attempt this again. And then the last thing that I thought was like fucked was their plan was to or I think they came out and actually like laid this out. I don't know, but the plan was they were going to reintegrate him into the team, and the first step of this was that they were going to tell the Man United women's team that they were doing it. Right. They weren't going to, and what I think is jacked about that is it wasn't going to be a conversation. It was like they were just going to let them know that this was happening. It wasn't a like, how do you guys feel about us like reintegrating him into the team?
But they were waiting for a reaction. They just weren't asking for actual input, to which your point is just completely fucked.
Yeah. There's I think what's become obvious is there is certainly some kind of real cancer in that organization. I can't speak to exactly where it comes from, whether it's this like holier than thou kind of point of view that the Glazers have, but there are like real structural issues and cultural issues at that organization. Derek, you said it really well. Like they are still talking about how they are low on wingers now. But the truth of the matter is that there are two men on their payroll who have been accused in credible terms of their criminal behavior, and they're still on the books. And there's no statement that comes from the organization. It's crazy, and it's reflected in their approach to selling the club and receiving offers for the club, but never moving on them, never telling fans what the situation is, never telling the kind of larger Manchester United world. There's a huge issue at that club, and it goes back to David Moyes. I feel like it's like there's just this slow creeping in of real criminality and exposure at the club that I think is an issue, and that will really taint their legacy in the sport. I think I can't see that team getting top four. I really hope they don't get top four. But I just feel the negative energy is going to continue to build around that club for a good time now, and it'll creep into every part of the club.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, it's hard to function with this level of dysfunction. I mean, that kind of seems obvious, but like the team isn't going to gel and come together like, how could you feel good about this if you're on that team?
And it's a crazy thing, and excuse me for getting a little bit of a rant about it, but Erik ten Hag, in my opinion, has proved himself not to be of the stature of someone like Sir Alex Ferguson, hopefully, or, managers of that level, because he has said almost nothing.
Yeah.
Where's the manager, the leader of the team, actually coming back out and saying, this is not acceptable in my my team?
No, he said more about Jadon Sancho than he has about either of those guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do think that there's an element of, well, I mean, I'm sure that he probably has lawyers being like, don't go near this. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe that seems like a continuance of the problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree, but and I also the way the club from the top down has handled all of this, like their actions around Greenwood just reek of this is an asset that we need to maximize at all cost type thing, right? Like, and that makes sense because that's how the club is run, right? It's a value extraction proposition for the Glazers, and it's like a publicly traded company. And yeah, I mean, this club is not what it was, like what it once was. This is not the crown jewel in the EPL anymore. It is a dump.
Most of
it's sad to see
EPL kind of feel like that.
What'd you say?
I said most things in the EPL kind of feel like that.
Yeah, it's getting that way.
Sorry to interrupt you, Derek.
No, you're right.
Like Manchester City, even, if we're talking about Saudi Arabia every day, and
they won the treble.
Oh, yeah, but they're like in the shit for financial fair play.
Well, none of that's real. It's
but
you
can take your 100 accusations and go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's been proven in court, Luke. I don't know what you're referencing.
And we'll make sure it never is.
Yeah.
I forgot you guys are Chelsea fans. You love your dictators. Sorry.
We don't have a dictator. We have
a bro from California.
Yeah, a nice American lad running the show. Todd Bowley's Chelsea Cowboys.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I don't think that's original. I don't know where I heard that. I think.
Well, I hadn't heard it yet.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jordan Henderson. I have no idea how long. I'm not running the show today. Yeah, we're running a bit long.
Edit it out.
Yeah, let's talk about Jordan Henderson real quick. So he gave a nightmare interview for him, I think. Basically is trying to paper over. So for background, Jordan Henderson has part of his persona, his public image, and let's be generous and not say this was like a calculated thing, and he really took this on as an important cause for him. And I think it was I think he genuinely has been a huge supporter of the LGBTQ community. His captain's armband was always rainbow. I think he'd wear rainbow laces. Did a lot to bring the temperature down on the attitude toward those groups in soccer, which sadly it sort of trailed. Well, at least things here. I mean, things in America seem to be going backwards again. But anyway, so his a big part of who Jordan Henderson was this support for that community. And then he showed up at training camp looking crazy fit and was can't wait to fight for my spot in Liverpool. And then very quickly, when Saudi came calling, he came to terms with them and left. And there are a lot of questions about how he could in good conscience play for a club in a country that is the antithesis of the progressive values that he has
$9,240,000,000.
So he gives this interview.
Oh my god!
So he gives this interview where he is insisting, he's trying to insist that money was the last consideration he made, and it just came across as so insincere. It is like
how do you contextualize it versus his prior body of work? Which, in fairness, I don't think myself and others gave him enough credit for. To your point, like the off the field stuff. But yeah, how do you contextualize that with what he's chosen to do? Yeah. So he said that his goals were basically he'd been told he wasn't going to play his normal minutes for Liverpool. That they were looking to make some changes and make this get the squad to be a little younger. He said that he was worried that would affect his playing time for England, and to that I would just gesture toward Harry Maguire and don't worry. Okay. Southgate's got your back.
Yeah, he's only starting dinosaurs on this team, so
playing in Saudi Arabia was going to help him.
Yeah, and he thought that playing in not I'll go play for Villa or go to another club in the EPL that needed a Jordan Henderson. I'm going to Saudi Arabia, and that decision it had absolutely nothing to do with money, and I find that outrageous. And it was outrageous that he attempted to sell that. It's also fine. It's fine that he wanted to make as much money as he could while he could still play soccer, but say that, don't try to have it both ways is kind of my take on it. How do you guys feel about that? All of that
sounds a lot like the PGA golf.
Yeah.
Sounds exactly the same to me. This kind of value weighing, saying, oh, but we can make a good impact.
Yeah.
That's not really operative when you're getting paid an exorbitant amount of money. The hard thing about this is do you think that Jordan Henderson is going to make enough money where he actually believes what he's saying? Has he just let himself off the hook?
Oh, you mean yeah. So has he actually convinced himself?
Yeah.
Due to how much it benefits him.
It's hard. It just sounds so much like golf that I just have no real sympathy for it.
That golf stuff was ludicrous.
But the language is the same.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
How do you justify somebody like N'Golo Kante going then? Or do we view that in the same light?
I don't know enough about N'Golo Kante's personal values.
Yeah.
Jordan Henderson's been pretty vocal about his.
I think that's the difference, right? Is the extent to which he's spoken up, right? Whereas N'Golo Kante was a quiet leader, but somebody of, I'd say, similar standing from a personal leadership standpoint that chose to go play there as well. But
yeah. The one wrinkle is that with that comparison is that Kante is a practicing Muslim, and so there's that.
I didn't realize that.
I think that has more to do with a large portion of the shift to Saudi Arabia, which is kind of understandable depending on I think each player's point of view. But and I have no problem with players going to Saudi Arabia as long as they're honest about the intention.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Kante. Nothing. Kante's so quiet. I wouldn't know what he's thinking, but it's not like he's come out and said, no, I didn't come here for the money.
Yeah.
Come on. Cristiano Ronaldo, he went there for the money.
He absolutely went there for he's out there fucking talking in the third person like he's Zlatan now.
And, he had no leg to stand on to begin with, right? So
yeah.
Jordan
was he omitted from the Ballon d'Or nominations?
First time in 17 years.
Oh, he was. Wow. Still on there, Derek. The GOAT. The MLS GOAT. First MLS player to be nominated for the Ballon d'Or. Do you know who that is, Derek?
Oh, yeah. The guy playing for Miami.
Yeah.
He's the guy,
I don't know if you're
the guy playing for the Saudi B League. Yeah.
Why does Derek hate Messi so much?
I don't know. I don't think he's ever effectively when I've pressed him, he's been he looks like an accountant and I don't like him or something like that.
Every impression I have of him is the same as that photo of him shopping in Publix. It's just my t-shirt, my jorts or whatever I'm wearing.
Derek, the fashion icon, is taking Lionel Messi to task here.
I've got 58 black t-shirts in my closet right now, and I'm wearing one of them.
Yep. All right.
Imagine the amount of t-shirts Adidas gives Lionel Messi.
He probably could just throw one out every day. Yeah. There was a story just sort of related to this Jordan Henderson thing. At some point over the summer, I remember reading that Saudi had promised they were going to, I think the way they phrased it was
the Champions League.
Yeah. Well, but what they said was they were going to gift the winners of the Saudi leagues a Champions League berth, I guess. And UEFA came out and said that was not happening. I bet there's a number where it will absolutely happen. So I'm crazy cynical because these guys are fucking criminals too. There's a lot of outrage around what Saudi is doing, but FIFA and UEFA are effectively criminal organizations. And
do you think that's why they haven't disclosed how much they're paying Henderson, because they're using that to money launder the cash into Europe?
Maybe. I don't know. Just I don't know. I saw that Chelsea, maybe there's their new sponsor plan to get a shirt sponsor is, I forget the name of the airline because it doesn't exist, but the Saudi Public Fund, who own Newcastle, right? So they have announced they're starting an airline, but they won't even own an airplane until 2027 or something like that. If
City had done that, at least they could have slapped a label on it and said there was a company instead of just making a shell company in the Caymans. That's the difference.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see this play out. I couldn't care less about the Saudi League personally. It's I don't care who they send there. They will not get my eyeballs for the reasons that Jordan Henderson should not have gone there. Not to be preachy, but I just have no interest in supporting anything that enriches that sort of.
Well, I would go one step further and say I'm not behind anyone going there.
But it's gonna happen, and I've seen who was it? I think it was Rodri yesterday was saying that Europe needs to step in and stop Saudi from taking their players. I think in a press conference yesterday. I think it was Rodri. I'm shooting from the hip.
That makes sense because he's Spanish, so he thinks it's okay to force people to do things.
There has to be something done about it. I don't really know what that means. Maybe it's leveling up the timeline for transfers, moving the somehow forcing the transfer deadlines to line up. So Damari Gray leaving Everton. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah. Yep.
How can a club like Everton say no when a player is striking? There's a club in another continent that's willing to pay a whole bunch of money for him. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
There's no leverage other than dollars, and the Saudis have a lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of money. Kind of blows my mind.
Seemingly infinite.
It's somebody's doing some really fucking good accounting.
Yeah. I
genius.
That is like, it is levels of money that I'm like, yeah, I know they're rich, but like there has to be some limit to what they can spend here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what can be done here. I like the for me, ideally they would just divest like they'd get this shit out of the sport. Like the fraudulent plane deals, them buying clubs, like there should be in my opinion, like the like in an ideal world, the like there would be huge steps taken to prevent the sports washing stuff that's going on with all sports. Like the golf thing shouldn't have been allowed. But yeah,
really, really complicated stuff.
Yep. All right, let's. What do we have left? How far in are we, Derek?
We're an hour in. We're not talking about Yanks Player of the Month or Yanks Team of the Month.
Let's
I think Player of the Month is Is that the more interesting one or not?
Yeah, let's just do both. So, Luke, you probably didn't look at this until you hopped on the call, but we were gonna like debate who we thought the best player of the month and who the best team of the month was.
I love that idea
this month. So, Derek, do you have a player of the month you want to lead?
So, I mean, I assumed the obvious choice is Pulisic, so I was going to say Anthony Robinson because I thought it's uninteresting.
Oh,
to say Pulisic,
you wanted to keep this.
Does it have to be an American?
Yeah, if we're doing an American, it's obviously Pulisic. I was
just looking at the show notes.
Yeah. I think I meant the Yanks, like the podcast's player of the month. But yeah, we're obviously very professional here. Yeah. If we're
you brought me on board, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the podcast player of the month is clearly Luke. So I don't know. There's three choices. I'm going with Luke.
You're here to clean this mess up. Could you shoot from the hip on these, Derek, or no? I can go. So if I'm picking a U.S. player of the month, it's obviously Pulisic. My overall player of the month, I am gonna go with Evan Ferguson.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. He hasn't played. He's only played a portion of the minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm going purely based on how good he looked in one. Yeah. Dude, frankly, he looked not great. What's that?
They're going to try to sell him for $5 million.
Dude, oh my God, they're going to get so
million.
much.
$9 billion.
Money for
$240
so much for Evan Ferguson.
$1 million.
Tony Bloom just wakes up every morning fully erect, thinking about how much money he's going to get for Evan Ferguson.
He just loads it in the Football Manager and then just plays it out over and over again.
Yeah,
I'll go for one. I'll actually throw in a different. I think Pulisic is for sure the obvious choice, though. Anthony Robinson at Fulham is performing really, really.
He's playing great.
I think at a high level next to Tim Ream. Tim Ream just doesn't doesn't show quite as much on the front as terms of skill and all that, but has been really rock solid. I think also been injured a little bit. I think Anthony Robinson is my underdog U.S. pick.
I thought he looked great last night too. Tim Ream did not.
Yeah, Tim Ream not so good. That's a whole kind of. We need to have a whole episode about the U.S. men's national team's performance.
All right,
in that game, you guys can cover that. You guys can cover that next week. Great. Yeah, that was fucked. What did the announcers say that the Uzbekistan landed like that day? Like they something like that. Like their flight was fucked, and yeah.
And then all across all leagues for me, for sure, James Maddison. I think he's been phenomenal. Probably the best creative player so far in the Premier League. I
almost picked him.
That would be my pick. And yes, I am being I
think it's still fair, even though you're an awful, dirty Tottenham fan. I think it's fair. It would be fair to pick him. Yeah, did you hear the rumor about Chelsea and him? By the way, we talked about this last week, but Chelsea, he was too old for Chelsea to go after. Is basically what what they said. I don't know how that came out, but like, I guess he was like 25 at the time and is now 26 or something like that. And that was deemed too old for the Chelsea project. And Derek pointed out that he also scores goals, so he's not fit for the Chelsea project.
Fit with our system.
He doesn't fit our system.
He can make a forward pass.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Derek, did you
I think the only other name that came to mind, I thought, I don't know. I don't even know if it's that close. I thought Odegaard's been playing really well, but I think James Maddison, once you bring stats into it, it definitely overshadowed him. So I think James Maddison probably was a player of the month for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you could obviously make a case for the fucking Nordic Terminator. Always. It's just like so obvious to pick him.
He missed a penalty though, so just we'll dig him for that.
Yeah, true.
His partner, Holland's partnership with Alvarez, I think, is really interesting.
It's a glitch.
Alvarez can kind of do anything.
Yeah, he
can play in the 10. He can go up and get really close to Holland and play like a combination wall pass, get him through on Holland's pace. Yeah, I've always thought Holland was was one of the best. He's a really good hitchhiker. Like, he gets on with the best people who are going to take him to the best place, and he finishes really well, obviously. But he's kind of a passenger in the game, though.
Yeah.
But Alvarez and him together is like a whole different thing, even from De Bruyne.
It would have been
really
so
exciting.
Interesting to see a Harry Kane, because we're seeing what a Holland-centric Man City looks like, right? And like that shit that Kane did in the England game yesterday, where he's like dropping deeper than all the midfielders, and then just a absolute perfect pass, delivered to Walker. Like
Guardiola would have been like jizzing passing range.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been really interesting, like that, like whatever world that was. We have a friend who thinks that Harry Kane was holding Tottenham back. What would you say to that? Do you believe, now that you've seen, as a Tottenham fan who watches, like most games, do you think that the club was being held back by the presence of Harry Kane?
I think that a fool would say that team is better without Harry Kane.
I'm going to clip this.
I think if someone would say Tottenham are better without Harry Kane,
this is my new ringtone.
Pretty stupid. But I think there is some but because of the positive nature of the new season. I do think that there was, in retrospect, a rush to try to win with managers like Jose Mourinho and Kante because we had a player like Harry Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that attitude shift in the club did have negative ramifications. I think the identity of the club was lost because they really wanted to win with the best player we had ever had. And I think that attitude held the club back. Would I think Harry Kane would score a bucket load of goals in this Tottenham team? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do think because Postecoglou wants to be there and because his system doesn't rely on one player quite as heavily as other very successful systems, I think we have a decent chance to succeed without him.
I thought you were going to tell me how excited you were for it to open up playing time for Richarlison.
Oh man, cry, baby. He just needs to.
I gotta watch that clip.
Oh, it's bad.
Am I remembering this wrong? He had a good World Cup, right?
He scored one fantastic goal in the World Cup.
Oh, that's what. Okay,
yeah.
I am remembering it wrong. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that I think Harry, if we can use some of the funds in January that we now have that we haven't necessarily used, I think Brendan Aronson was a good pickup. I think if we can sign another center back, we'll be in good shape for a top 6 finish. I would say.
Yeah,
I think if we got 5th and got the Champions League, it would be a massive success.
Well, let's talk team of the month. Mine is, and it pains me to say this.
Are you going to give me a ringtone?
It's Tottenham.
Woo!
I hate that I love watching Tottenham right now. they are playing really entertaining soccer, and Postecoglou is really like he's playing a tune with that team, and I believed in him, but I didn't expect this. There's seemingly no settle in period. Like I hear Chelsea copium that is some directionally like this is a new team with a new coach and a new system, and it will take time. Good things come with time. Postecoglou came in there, lost his best player at the last minute, who was holding them back. Right. but
besides that, if we overlook that part, then
lost his best player practically at deadline day, and has that team playing better than I can recall them playing in 5-6 seasons. Maybe I'm not being generous there, but like he's a wizard, whatever's going on there. And then he's like hilarious in press like I watch his press conferences. That's how like just dynamic and interesting the whole situation at Tottenham is. And are they at the top of the table? I don't even know. They've got a second. Okay.
Man City is undefeated.
We've
drawn once.
Yeah. So anyway, they're my team of the month because picking City is fucking boring, and the delta between where they were and where they are is huge. So that's my pick for team of the month. Derek,
I can't imagine who Luke's gonna pick.
Well, I'll let you go first, Derek, so I hold the surprise back. Did you hear the Robbie Williams and Postecoglou song?
I did not.
Yeah, look it up. It's fucking fantastic.
I won't.
All right, Derek, you're up.
I'm already nauseated.
So I did actually prepare for this part. I said West Ham.
That's a okay pick.
I think for me, I think they've overachieved in terms of kind of on paper talent and payroll probably, but on top of that, I think Jared Bowen, Lucas Paqueta's got 26 progressive passes this far in the season. Kurt Zuma honestly looks like he's protecting the goal from a herd of cats the way he's clearing the ball. It's very very, very complete team with a lot of great individual performances out there, and to be tied for second with 10 points is pretty impressive.
And they're doing it without Harry Maguire.
Yeah, but that's the most shocking part, right? Because I have to eat crow on the fact that Harry Maguire still isn't at West Ham, because I thought they'd never get the second place without Harry Maguire. Yeah, they did themselves a favor somehow. They didn't know it.
Yeah, they were. It wasn't for lack of trying, but yeah.
Like, what did they're playing counterattacking football. Have they watched Harry Maguire on a counterattack the other way?
Yeah. I mean, he's okay. Didn't he play? He played as a mid at some point.
Was he even in the frame on that goal that, the last goal that they gave up to Jesus?
Oh.
Against Arsenal? I thought he was at like the midway line after what's his name?
I don't blame him for that. They no,
it was a meaningless goal. But.
Yeah.
They were running for the game.
Yeah.
So
I blame him for a lot of things, but not for that goal. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
So Luke. My team of the month would probably be Tottenham because of the way they've done it, more of like the surprise. But I actually am on the West Ham train. I think in particular because of one player, as James Ward Prowse.
Good.
A player that I think the way that I played for most of my kind of, late high school, mid college days. I focused so much on dead balls and how much they could change the game, and West Ham show that perfectly.
He's like an assassin there on those, isn't he?
Yeah. He's as good as David Beckham, as good as any free kick taker in the history of the Premier League, in my opinion. Just and gets around the pitch pretty well. He does his job really well.
He reads the West game Ham in general. So well. Like watching him cut passes out has been. To this point, I hadn't watched him that much. Like I'd catch a game here and there, but Yeah, I've seen a lot of West Ham this season, and he has looked great. And like, what a pickup that was for them.
Agreed. I do want to put on the Tottenham note. I think that there will be a point in the season where we suffer a couple really hard defeats, like where there's a pretty deep drop in results because of the way we're playing. But right now, come on, you Spurs, second place, let's go. And got a couple Chelsea guys in my corner this week.
Yeah. I can't wait for the suffering. I'm suffering now, so all right, I'm going to rapid fire some of this transfer business just so we're not carrying this over into the next episode. Ansu Fati to Brighton. We covered this in the last episode. Luke, do you have any thoughts on this? Because
what an incredible thing.
Yeah,
I'm really excited for that. Yeah. I don't know how successful Ansu Fati will be in a much more physical league. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, because he's pretty injury prone, or he's coming off of a series of injuries, right?
And he hasn't like gained a bunch of weight yet as far as his development physically as a player.
Yeah,
so we'll see. I think it's a great advertisement for the Premier League for a club like Brighton to get a generational talent, quote unquote, like Ansu Fati.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing I pointed out was like the fact that the player agreed to that loan is huge. Like that's a team that has been a mid-table team for a while, and then the level of ambition being shown by Brighton with a loan, right? Like this isn't a club to this point that like grabs players on loans. Like they've been a seller of players. So yeah, it shows a pivot point for that club and where they want to go next. And yeah, I think that's a really, really significant transfer for several reasons.
Interesting on that. So Tottenham showed a lot of interest right when he came on the market for a loan. And Daniel Levy supposedly brought it to Postecoglou, and Postecoglou had the balls to say, nope, not my kind of player. This is who I want. Like, how do you, like, that takes some fucking cojones to say, nope, don't want this once in a lifetime player from Barcelona, is not my kind of player. Need this.
Wow.
Baller move.
Yeah. Yep. Iwobi from Everton to Fulham. Everton is such a piece of shit. They're so fucked, I think. But
just part of the fire sale.
Yeah,
everything must go,
dude. They're gonna finish bottom 3, and then they're gonna open their $1 billion stadium, and it's I don't know what happens to that club.
And we say bye-bye.
Nunes from City to Wolves. Reguilon to Man U. Interesting bit of business because there's a termination clause for January. And that is, there was a whole story, we talked about it last time, about how Man U is somehow broke. And it's probably because they keep paying hundreds of millions of euros for players that can't stop assaulting people, and paying them huge salary packages. So they had to take that Reguilon on loan. They had to take Amrabat on loan with an obligation to buy next year again, because the assumption is that Man U is really broke, and they've already been hit with a financial fair play fine. And then I'll just like lead right in. So the next question is, what's your favorite transfer of the window? And mine is fucking Romelu Lukaku to Roma. Get that cancer out of my club. It is a loan. And the only way, so to Chelsea's credit, my understanding is they told this guy that he could rot on the 21s or he could take a pay cut and then go to Roma. And so they renegotiated his contract, and there is now he took a huge haircut on his pay, and there's now like a 30 or 35 million euro buyout on, which is I guess what they're going to target selling him for next year. But that has flown under the radar a little bit, that they really put, well, as Lukaku has put the screws to Chelsea for so long that they finally got one back over on him. They were like, we don't care if you ever play for Belgium again. We'll let you rot here, or you can agree to new terms and then we'll send you to Roma. So that's my favorite transfer of the window. I hate Lukaku. God, I hate him so much.
It's kind of interesting. Mourinho, Lukaku, Dybala.
Yeah.
Could be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Smalling's there.
Yeah. Roma's, I've been watching more Serie A because of all the Yanks that are in Serie A. So I think Derek has as well. It's a fun league. It's like wide open. Yeah, I've enjoyed watching it. Do you have a favorite transfer of the window, Derek or Luke?
I mean, I guess the obvious one's James Madison, right?
Yeah, it's got to be Luke's, right?
It's not a transfer that has happened. It's a transfer that happened last year, but the loan ended and he's at the club. Destiny Udogie, who's our
he's so good.
20-year-old. Could be a big deal.
Yeah, I think I've talked about him in every episode so far.
So good.
Derek will back me up on that. He's so good.
That's true. But then you also mentioned every episode how you think that team's full of a pile of crap. But
yeah,
so there's quite a there's a dichotomy there at the moment.
Yeah.
A little dissonance.
Yeah. No, I mean, Madison's the obvious choice, I think. And then, I guess for me, the obvious number 2 is James Ward Prowse. But and then maybe that one's more interesting because it's a little bit more under the radar. But
yeah, I think I've talked more about Udogie and Estupiñán than any other individual players so far this season. I love Pervis Estupiñán. He's so good. Yeah. I've read somewhere it was some stat like he actually leads all defenders in chance creating actions or something so far this season. It was something like that. Yeah, I love watching that guy play. He does it all.
Tell me how much you love Mark Cucurella.
My fucking eyes twitching now. Do we?
Christian Romero had the right deal where he pulled his hair and slammed it into the ground.
Oh, man, I'm gonna have to drink some beet juice after this and bring my blood pressure down. Let's see. Do you guys want to carry the other Yanks if you're going to cover the U.S. games?
Yeah, we can cover all those next week. That'll leave everybody in deep anticipation.
Yeah. And then Pulisic, AC Milan Player of the Month. Who would have thought? Except we did. We kind of called this, right?
Yeah, we said we were very. We never, it was tongue in cheek when I asked you. I mean, we never said he was going to be the Player of the Month, but we did say you said he was going to cook. I agreed. What we thought was going to happen is what happened, and it's fun to watch. It's good for the team, and then we'll come up. I don't know. Should we talk? Maybe we don't need to splice in the fact the same person that thought Harry Kane was holding Tottenham back thinks Pulisic's holding the U.S. back. But I feel remiss not to mention it.
Yeah.
I have to really send Luke off the deep end, but
does he listen to these episodes in full?
He says they're too long, so I think we're good. Okay. As long as we keep recording for a couple more minutes.
I definitely don't think that the U.S. are better without Pulisic, but there are players who could play there and play differently. No, yeah, you're right. You know what's holding the U.S. men's national team back? Greg fucking Berhalter.
Yeah.
Too.
There's our foreshadowing to next week's episode.
Yeah, I'm sad. I will miss it.
We'll talk about it next. Derek and me are going to get angry. Yeah. It's going to be a different kind of podcast.
That's one emotion that Derek has on lock. So.
In spades. Yeah. I think I can contribute here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're up against it on time. So we good here?
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's good to have you. Listen, guys, we need you to if you're listening to this, we need you to like and subscribe. We're all over the place at this point. We are on all major podcasting platforms. We have a Discord that will be linked in the description wherever you're listening to this. We're on YouTube. We're posting clips all over the place. We're all over social media. I'm watching fucking Tottenham games, and if I can do that, you can subscribe to this. So thanks for
Ryan's
tuning in.
doing his part.
Yeah. It's torture. It's like fucking sandpaper for my eyeballs, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it for you. It's a service for you guys. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Football Yanks podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. We'll see you next time.